hello everyone, and welcome. Today we have an exciting topic for you, but before we get there, I am Dina, and I am the head pain coach and chief curator at Pain to Possibilities and the Change Pain Academy. I am also the lucky gal that gets to host this Willow Tree Summit, all about chronic pain and trauma. Today, I am really excited to introduce you to Taz Vazquez. Am I saying that? Vazquez?
Vazquez.
Yep. Vazquez. Sorry about that.
No,
so, all right. Vaz, also known as Taz, as I got to know before we got into this, is an EFT master practitioner, life coach, fitness instructor, writer, and a veteran. Taz has over 27 years of coaching, mentoring, leadership, and counseling experience. She specializes in PTSD, trauma, anxiety, depression, self-acceptance, and navigating life transitions. Taz is a lifelong servant leader and learner. Taz retired from the Air Force in 2018 after 25 years. Her past career experiences include resident in counseling, intelligence analyst, very cool, instructor, college assistant professor, and academic advisor, Air Force legislative liaison, strategic advisor while deployed to the Middle East, and director at multiple levels. She has led and supervised teams up to 145 people and managed multi-million-dollar budgets. While Taz had a successful military career, she spent her adult life battling depression, anxiety, and post-traumatic stress. Successfully overcoming these challenges due to emotional freedom techniques, also known as EFT, which we'll talk about today, and Boulder Crest Foundation's Warrior Path, which is a veterans nonprofit organization and peer-led training group introducing veterans and first responders to 31 wellness practices. I love that. These days, she's on a mission to let others know that they are not alone. She is most proud of when she has been able to help others, whether it be development of an alcohol awareness and moderation program that was adopted as a U.S. Air Force standard, nice, to helping others find needed support and sense of a community, or assisting people move past their own stress, resistance, and or trauma so they can rediscover their passion, purpose, joy, and creativity in life. She loves dance, fitness, kickboxing, boxing, reading, writing, cooking, and quality time with her parents, and Suki, her special needs rescue dachshund. Oh, and I love it. I love it. I had to read that. I'm sorry if my eyes were away from the camera, but that's such an impressive bio. My gosh. That's why I'm so excited to have you. So everyone, I want to introduce you to Taz. Taz, today we're going to talk about EFT tapping. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for the invitation. I am so excited to spend this time, and I love what you do and how you serve, because it's such a needed area in our community and our society. So thank you. And thank you for the invite today.
Oh, no problem. I'm glad to have you on board. I'm blown away really by the people that we've had on board here. There's just some incredible people doing some incredible work. So on that note, let's talk a little bit about, first of all, we understand a little bit about you and how you got here, but really, is there anything else we need to know about you, about what got you here?
I think the biggest thing that got me here, is to recognize that life happens, right? And unfortunately, we get so conditioned in our society, and especially in the career field that I was in, that you need to hide your pain, you need to hide your emotions, you need to deny how it feels, but you have to only the medical model. And there's nothing wrong. I mean, my mom has had some wonderful care when it comes to some heart issues for her. And so, I love doctors, and at the same time, I didn't get introduced to more of a holistic, or I wasn't open to the idea of more of that holistic medicine and the holistic aspect of life until in my late 40s. And so, if anybody, whether it be for pain or trauma or depression or anxiety, they're things that creep up over time. It's not typically a one-time thing. And when our bodies are such amazing instruments and have such an adaptive mode for healing, and yet there's times where things get stuck. Where our body, because of trauma or because of an incident or multiple instances over time, or some of the negative messaging that we picked up along the way as kids, then stops us from, being able to really process all of that. And so then that's what leads to, what you'll hear talking about maladaptive ways of coping. They worked at the time, It's just, they're no longer serving us,
Right.
and so people reach out, especially with the pandemic, right? I mean,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
30% increase when it comes to depression and anxiety, the huge volume of increased calls and concerns with suicide ideation. And so, there's the need is so great. And it's really understanding, okay, what's going on in our mind and our body and our brain, and how can it help?
Right.
And at my lowest point, I literally was on my knees and suffering lifetime of post-traumatic stress because of a childhood trauma, and then additional incident of not processing loss of life that I had witnessed in the military, along with a lot of other unhelpful patterns and beliefs that I took on.
Right.
I was at my lowest point, depressed, anxious, constantly triggered because of the post-traumatic stress and suicide ideation. Wow. And I was thinking, if I wasn't here, who would care? It wouldn't matter. Oh. And I remember, what kept me from going any further was a promise I had made to my parents a long time ago that I would never do that, because they had, had other family members that had. And so it was something that stuck in the back of my mind. And then it was kind of like this, well, now what? Where do I go? What do I do?
Wow.
And I started with a background in counseling. I was like, all right, I need to reach out. And so I started to reach out for assistance. I started to reread. And what was fascinating is being the love of reading, love of learning, love of growing. I tapped back into that because I had gotten away from anything that made me happy, because that's all I could see was the depression and the anxiety just kept spiraling down.
It does that, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. And your brain then goes, oh yeah, well, here you go, here's some more. So let's keep spiraling.
Right.
And I had come across a statistic from the Cleveland Clinic, and it was that we had over 60,000 thoughts a day, and that 90 to 95% of them are repetitive in our subconscious, and that 80 to 85% are negative. Right. And that just kind of stopped me in my tracks. I'm like, what the hey? Oh, yeah. I'm basically walking around in fight, flight, freeze mode. Yeah. And I'm not in control. I'm giving this up to that depression, anxiety, and that constant voice. And that really was kind of the start of the turning point in my life, to really seek out and go, okay, what is going on with trauma? What's going on with PTSD? Right. Is this something that I'm going to have to deal with the rest of my life? Do I want to feel this way for the rest of my life?
Oh, yes.
And that's really what got me started then on this journey and my healing journey. And along that way, two things that were just instrumental for me was, I mentioned, the Boulder Crest Foundation, their Warrior Path program. The Path is the progressive and alternative training for healing heroes. And it's for combat veterans or veterans who have supported combat, not necessarily in combat. And it's also for first responders. Yeah. That program is, it has a week in as a small group, and it's peer led, which is beautiful. And they've done the research when it comes to post-traumatic stress, anxiety, and depression. They know what works, they know what combination, and they introduce us to that 31 wellness practices in a very safe place where you then are willing to be vulnerable, and you're willing to learn and grow and try and see that there's a different way. Yes. And so that was beautiful. I mean, because I saw, including my own journey, but some of my pathmates, as I say, and I could see the life and light come back into their eyes after that. Yeah. And so that was the start. And then along the way, and part of my journey, as I was starting my new career after the military as a life coach, and I had discovered EFT, and initially tapping is also the nickname of it. And tapping, it was actually a coach for coaches who was working with a free webinar, and I had taken it. I'd heard of tapping, 15, 20 years ago when I was working on my master's in counseling and working towards licensure. And I was like, yeah, that's so woo-woo. No, I'm sticking with talk therapy. I'm sticking with the fast forward now, and then tapping, actually, she was working with other coaches who were having anxiety and imposter syndrome, feeling like they weren't good enough. Who would really listen to them? I think many of us in entrepreneurship, we've experienced the same thing, right? Sure,
don't we? Yes, and women especially.
And so I experienced the tapping and gone like that. And so I was like, wow, okay, there's really something here. This is not woo woo anymore. This is what's really going on. So I was
Yeah.
really curious. And then from there, went through certification myself. And as part of that, actually the rest of any of the PTSD that was there, I was able to work through because of tapping, and because of then from there, kind of that maintenance. It's really looking holistically at how's your sleeping, how's your eating, how's your meditation, how's your mindful, your mindfulness and your mindset.
Yeah.
All of those contribute to how we're feeling in our nervous system, whether it's because it got hijacked years ago because of the trauma, and then because of the repeated patterns over and over and over again. And so there's a book called The Body Keeps the Score. That's a beautiful illustration. Yeah.
So good.
Yeah. Of, hey, here's what you need to do.
Yeah.
And that you can heal from trauma, that you can heal from this. And you can reprocess those traumas or those memories, and then take that holistic look, and then help keep your nervous system calm. And then from there, by adding these other things, you're keeping yourself very regulated. And that just made all the difference in my life, night and day. I mean, I used to get typical PTSD symptoms, triggered by loud noises, flashbacks, blocked out memories. I mean, all sorts of things for me. And once I went through this journey, I could stand outside and, here in the Pacific Northwest, you've got at 4th of July, there's fireworks everywhere, and it sounds like you're in a war zone. And I could stand there and not flinch, and not want to just go crawl underneath my covers, and hide for 5 hours while all the noise was going on. And so it was just that I stood there literally when I got to that point in my life where I could stand outside and not flinch. And I just had tears rolling down, because it was just so beautiful to experience that sense of truly being in alignment with who I am, and also my body and my mind, and being able to realize there really can be another way.
Yes. And they're really connected. Yeah, so well said. And I think while you were talking about your sort of catalyst, what really sparked you to do it, I really hope that our listeners heard that message, because someone in this group needs to hear that exact message that you gave, that where you are now compared to where you were then, in the same place that they are, is that stuck, you're feeling like there's really nothing else. And do I want to live this way? So really great, important message. It also goes to showcase just how connected everything is, right? And we forget that. We forget that. And that it's way more complicated than we think.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Right. Okay. Yeah. So we are getting a sense of what EFT or tapping is. We don't really necessarily need to tap into the science too much, but just on a kind of big picture, how does the actual tapping itself, either calm the nervous system, or, in your words, what does it do for our physical self and our emotional self?
Yeah, great question. Thanks. So when it comes to tapping, the beautiful thing is what you're doing is it's kind of like this beautiful intersection of modern psychology, ancient medicine, because of acupuncture that's been around for thousands of years. And in terms of modern psychology, you're using different aspects of talk therapy, of exposure therapy, which are some of along with EMDR, considered the gold standards when it comes to working with trauma.
Right.
And so it's utilizing that, but it's also utilizing the tapping along your nervous system, it's calming your nervous system, because you're tapping along acupuncture points. And in a sense, it's basically, by doing that, you're keeping your nervous system calm. It's boosting your immune system. It's rebalancing some of that, more of the positive energy instead of that constant negative energy and the negative mindset that happens when we get into that space of the depression and the anxiety and that spiral that happens. And because you're tapping and your nervous system is calm, you're also then able to talk about the issue. And you're also able to then provide a positive affirmation. And in a sense, that's helping you process whether it be stuck memories, whether it be those negative emotions and how they're linked and tied to negative thoughts, to memories, and then also to core limiting beliefs. And by doing that, you're doing it in a way that's non-re-traumatizing.
Right.
And so it's that calming signal then, really helps us lower the cortisol. There's an example where one of the leaders in the field, Dr. Dawson Church, he actually just in a 30-minute, session with a group they took a study and it lowered the overall cortisol level, that stress hormone, by 42%. Wow. I mean, so it's huge, and there's now been multiple studies, that talk about how tapping can really help, so for example, on trauma side of the house, they did a study with veterans and they realized that in this particular study, 86% of the veterans no longer had PTSD symptoms because of tapping. And it was actually twice as effective, and it was also faster than of the contemporary standard that we have today. Yeah. Right. And so that's what's so cool, it's just this connection between mind, body, the neuroscience piece of how and where we store trauma in our brain and what we need to do and how it gets stored in our body over time. Right. And a lot of times, trauma over time, when it's unresolved, the symptoms don't just go away, they get greater because your body over time, is still in that fight, flight, freeze mode. And so it's shutting down things. It's not letting you sleep well. It's not letting your body digest. It's not letting you rest. I mean, all sorts of cascading effects that then over time start creating issues. I mean, for me, I can remember when I was so stressed, I was working like 80 hours a week, very stressful job. I was borderline obese. I was just unhealthy, in a very unhealthy place, mindset wise, because still that depression, anxiety, and PTSD was still active, all those symptoms. And I remember going to the doctor, and the doctor at the time, because I was having heart palpitations. And they ran all the tests, and she looked at me and she's like, I don't see anything. Maybe you should go talk to a therapist. The thing is, though, I remember getting angry at that moment in time because I'm like, well, how dare you tell me that it's all in my head? That's what I heard, right?
Yes.
And in reality, it was, in that sense, it was once again showing how our brain and our body are connected. And over time, little things, if you don't process things, it starts, different things in your body. I mean, think about it.
Yeah.
A lot of times for stress, and especially for women, where do we hold the stress?
Oh, yeah.
I do, but for me, it's my shoulders, right? Yeah. And so that, and then over time, you keep that stress, and then you start feeling it in your stomach, you start getting ulcers. For me, the heart palpitations started because I was not dealing in a healthy way with all of that. And so that just goes to illustrate, just how connected our brain and body is and what can happen over time.
Absolutely. And I used to work for a pharmaceutical company for 10 years. And so I understand, they're not necessarily happy. I'm not against them, but they're not really happy because these are techniques that people can do anywhere, anytime, in their own power, that it's not synthetic, so it's the message is getting out there. I think the work that you're doing, the message is getting out there, but it's important for people to understand.
It is.
Just get, if we can get a bigger picture, because you are more than just the parts, you are a complex being. You are an incredibly capable being, right? Just like you are a good example of having come through from where you are to where you are now.
And there's nothing, like I said, the medical model, there's nothing wrong. No. There's a time and place for medicine, right? There's a time and place for the traditional medical model. Yep. And there's also a place for really, and even, I preach, get on my soapbox, whatever you want to say, that even in the medical model, it needs to be that holistic look. And you'll start to see that more and more because, there was this beautiful interview that was just done. It was Urza Klein show. I don't know if you've ever watched or listened, but Dr. Rachel Zoffness was on there, and she's a pain psychologist at the University of California, right?
She taught me everything I know.
Oh, I love her.
I love her. Hung out with her in the pandemic. Yeah.
Well, and she just recently did a podcast with him, and what I really loved is how well she illustrated how complex pain really is, and chronic pain and pain, but it also illustrated how how we really need to take that holistic look, right?
It's time.
Because it's not just a matter of, oh, let me resolve these emotions. It's also, hey, what's my thought process? What's my mindset? How am I narrowing my worldview and my ability day to day that actually may be increasing the pain because I'm not moving anymore. I'm staying sedentary. I'm afraid of moving. I've now increased the radar sensitivity on that pain, and our body, just goes, nope, danger, even though it's not there. Or so, but the pain is real. It's just that there's other aspects that we need to take a look at.
Absolutely.
And so, like, I've got a client had a client who they had a lifetime of post-traumatic stress, of pain and depression, anxiety, which led to pains in their body, and panic attacks, suicide ideation. So all of that. And through tapping, we started through the emotions piece and getting connected. What is the emotion? And then working through all of that. And it got to a point where those, they were able then to really start to see how their body, how their brain are connected, tune in to those negative messages, tune into those limiting core beliefs, learning how to rewire the brain from the negative to the positive, so your brain can create a space and go, oh, that's what you want to. Okay, I won't just hand you the negative fight, flight, freeze. Now let me show you what you really can do. And those symptoms went away. And they even improved in terms of the pain piece, because we also took a look at, hey, how's she sleeping? How's she eating? How's she moving? Is she doing regular meditation and breath work? And so then starting to incorporate that into the day-to-day, just like Dr. Zoffness was talking about. And it's huge in terms of how it can really help and impact, dealing with pain and chronic pain. And a lot of times, about 80% of the time, you see the chronic pain and trauma, together.
For sure. And that is why we're doing this summit, because it is not often talked about. And even though it is, it's got its feely fingers and everything. Absolutely. And I think that I love Dr. Rachel. She's my disruptor. She is the one that's really changing the message around chronic pain.
I love it. Love it.
Yeah. But I think it's important for our listeners to understand too, that chronic pain is a sensitivity disorder, in the sense that our nervous system is on hyperdrive. And so you just described it beautifully around how it all connects. And when it comes to chronic pain, chronic illness, everything matters, right? So if we can take that bird's eye view and start to understand a little bit more. There was another point to my story, but of course it has gone. I'm so excited about our conversation. That's okay. Story of my life. Okay. Well, we're running out of time, which I hate to say it. And I know you had an exciting thing to offer to our listeners.
Are we?
Want to get into it? Okay.
So I talk about tapping, and I think, it's one thing to hear about it and what is it? It's another thing completely to be able to experience it. So if we have the time, I would love to be able to share an experience of releasing some general pain and helping to calm the nervous system for those that are watching this video. And so that way you get a better understanding of what tapping really is all about. Is that something that we've got time to do?
We are perfect. Yep.
Yay! All right. So all I want folks to do in this particular case is just kind of sit back, and I'm going to guide you through this. Okay. And so, the tapping process itself is really going to help the body start to relax. And then as you start to relax, you start to release some of the negative emotions and some of those stressors that are keeping your body so tense. And when you start to then address that emotional component, you're able then to start, connecting the mind and body in the process. So just be gentle with yourself. Just be curious and open to this process. Sit back in a comfortable position. And first off, just take a deep breath in. And if for you, depending on if you've learned a particular breath work practice, for me, it's 5 in, hold 2, 7 out. Others, it's 4, 7, 8 or 4, 4. It just depends on what you do in terms of the counts in. So just that longer exhale starts to release the nervous system. Take another breath in, and then just kind of tune in. And where do you notice pain right now in your body? And how would you describe that sensation of that pain? And then ask yourself, on a scale of 0 to 10, how intense is this? So 0 being no pain whatsoever, and 10 being really intense pain for you. Just note it, just be curious about it, nothing. It's just something that we'll use as a tool for later, okay? And then if you would, come to the side of your hand and you're just gonna tap on the side of your hand. And if tapping doesn't feel comfortable, that tactile sensation, you can also press and release, okay? And so as you're tapping there, just repeating, we're gonna say this, we call it the setup statement 3 times, just to kind of acknowledge the issue and then also acknowledge positive affirmation, so that balance perspective. So just repeat after me out loud or silently to yourself. Even though I have this pain in my, and name where it is, and it feels like, and then describe it, I honor how I feel. And I give my body permission to relax. I love and accept myself as I am now. Doing that again, even though I have this pain in my, and name it for you. And it feels like, describe that pain. I honor my body and how I feel. And I give my body permission to relax. I accept myself as I am now. Then we're going to do that again. So even though I have this pain, and it feels like, so name it and where, I accept how I feel, and I give my body permission to relax. I love and accept myself as I am now. And then come into the top of the head, and you can do both hands, one hand or the other, it doesn't matter, just tapping right there or press and release, and repeat all this pain and describe where it is in your body. And then we're going to come to the eyebrow point, which is right in the corner, sinus passage and eyebrow there, and just say all this pain. And then side of the eye, right on the bone of the eye socket, right there on the corner. Yep, it's so hard to relax. Underneath the eye, all this tension in my body. It's hard for me to let go. Underneath the nose, all this pain in my, and name it and where it is. Describe it. Underneath the mouth, it's so frustrating. And then down to the collarbone. So as that collarbone here, your hands just kind of naturally fall there. So just right on the bone, just say, I'm so sick of it. And then we're going to come underneath the arm, which is about 4 inches down from the armpit. And it doesn't matter which side, there's that meaty section there, just tapping right there, that sensitive section. Doesn't have to be really hard. And repeat, this is a lot to handle. It feels overwhelming. I don't know why I'm in such pain. And then we're going to come back to the side of the hand. This pain, once again, describe it and where it is. Back to top of the head. I feel so stuck. Maybe I'm able and willing and worthy of releasing some of this pain, although I don't see how. Maybe I'm able and willing and worthy of being more curious about the pain. And then back to that eyebrow point and say, I wonder what this pain is all about. Side of the eye. Maybe I can listen to my body. Underneath the eye. It's safe to hold space for this pain. Underneath the nose. It's safe to address how I'm feeling. Underneath the mouth. It's safe to release this pain. And back to the collarbone. I can choose to breathe and relax more and more with each breath. Underneath the arm. And I can begin to release this pain little by little from my body. Side of the hand. Releasing this pain with each breath. Then back to top of the head. I'm open to the possibility of feeling better and letting go what is no longer serving me. And then come back to tapping on the eyebrow point. And you don't have to say anything here. Just tune into the pain and your body, and also to your thoughts and what they have to say. And on that eyebrow point, just think about, what is your pain really all about? What does it have to say? What's causing the most stress and frustration for you right now? How do you feel about your pain? Just curiously, non-judgmentally notice what comes up. And if nothing comes up right now, don't worry, just keep tapping. Trust this process, that you're actually helping your body process and let go of some of this stuck negative emotion. Even if you don't have a perfect answer, it's okay. Now moving to the side of the eye. Now I want you to focus on this pain for yourself. And if there was an emotion that this pain or this part of your body had, what would it be? Just notice what comes up. Do you feel anger or anxiety? Maybe it's some frustration or worry. Maybe some grief or sadness. What emotion is within that pain for you? Remembering that you're present, you're safe, you're resilient, that it's okay to hold space for this. And just allow your body to feel what it's feeling. And then notice any negative thoughts that might be coming up that's associated with those emotions underneath the eye. And then ask yourself, what's this pain really about? Do you happen to recall when you first started experiencing this pain? What was going on in your life at that time? Just let your mind float back to that. Think about it. When that pain really started first happening, what was it related to? And just keep tapping. Just notice what comes up. Notice what negative thoughts might be coming up as they're tied to those emotions and to that memory. Underneath the nose. And as you think about what was going on when you first felt that pain, notice how you begin to release some of that stress, some of that tension from your body. Notice how when you acknowledge these negative emotions, these negative thoughts, and this memory that's coming up, that's really behind that pain or tied to part of that pain, you really could then start to let those negative emotions go. Your body can start to relax and breathe. And you're acknowledging how this felt for you. And notice how you've been holding all of this in and holding on to all of this at this time. And you're now honoring your body and reminding yourself you're present and safe and that you're grounded. Okay, underneath the mouth. Now, I want you to tune back into those negative thoughts and that memory that's associated with what limiting belief. So maybe it's, I'm not safe. I'm not worthy. I'm not loved. I have to be perfect. What is it for you? Just be present, be curious, note it. So that way you can begin to start to release that and see how this thread ties back, and that emotional component to the pain, to that limiting belief we may have picked up. And then ask yourself, what's the positive thought you'd really want to believe, or that maybe you've experienced at another time in your life? I am worthy. I am safe. I can let go of this perfection. I am loved. Whatever it might be for you. And then coming back to the collarbone, just notice with every tap, your body can start to begin and relax more and more. Just step by step, letting go. As you begin to imagine, what might life be like with less pain or with no pain? Just imagine that. What would it feel like? Or remember a time before the pain. How did it feel in your body? How was your energy level? Did you feel joy or hope and the possibility of healing? That freedom of being pain-free or less pain. Good. Come back to underneath the arm now. And just feel your body relaxing more and more, that pain lessening. Making that image really strong of no pain or what it would be like. Make that even bigger. Make that even stronger. Feeling calm, centered. Feeling that healing energy enter your body as some of those old beliefs and memories and negative thoughts and emotions get acknowledged and get released. Relaxing more and more now with every breath. And coming back to the side of the hand and just tapping or press and release, relaxing more and more and letting go. Feeling safe in your body. And now think about a time where the opposite was true from whatever those negative messages were. So if it was, I'm not safe or I'm not good enough, think of a time where you were. We all have instances of those. We just, our brain, we put negative lenses on and we can't see it anymore through the pain or through the hurt or through the sadness or depression. So just think of that moment for you. And what was it like? What happened? What was going on for you? How'd you do it? How did it feel? Just notice those and just imagine that once again without that pain. How would you breathe? Your shoulders relax. How would you feel in your body? And think of that. What feelings would you have? What positive thoughts would be running through your mind right now? We're just going to do one more round and then we'll wrap up here. So coming back to the top of the head, and go ahead and repeat after me again. They're out loud or silently. So it's safe to relax. It's safe to acknowledge this pain because I'm safe. Eyebrow point. It's safe to feel this pain. Side of the eye. It's safe to relax. Underneath the eye. I am safe. I'm loved. I acknowledge this pain and all these feelings. Underneath the mouth. And I can begin to let them, underneath the nose, I can begin to let them go. Underneath the mouth, and I'm open to releasing this pain. Collarbone, and I can begin to relax. Releasing what's no longer serving me. Letting this pain go little by little. Underneath the arm, because I'm loved. And I approve of myself. And I'm safe. Side of the hand, and I choose to relax and honor my body for all that it's done. Releasing this pain and feeling stronger and stronger. And I'm open to letting go of this control. Knowing that I'm safe and I honor my body. And just take a moment now, and I want you, there's more of that tapping that you'll have access to this, but just for time's sake, I want you to check now back into your body and that how's the intensity of that pain is for you right now. That's scale of 0 to 10, 0 being no pain and 10 being really intense. And just where is it for you? And if it's still high, above, if it's a 2 or a 3, I encourage you to go back and do this tapping again, because you're going to find over time, that your body's going to keep relaxing more and more and more, and other things will start to come up for you.
Mm-hmm. Oh, what a gift. What a gift. I don't know if you noticed, but I was grinning like a Cheshire cat the whole time because there is some beautiful science behind this. Wow. You are pulling together, the process is pulling together some incredibly powerful pieces. And I hope our listeners, you may never know the full extent of it, but know that there is some good stuff going on here. Thank you so much. That was amazing. I think it would be really interesting to see for our listeners, once they've had that moment, quiet space after the practice, to see how the pain feels, to then, after they've done this a couple of times, take it one step further and just see, okay, where were their thoughts heading? And did they find it was difficult to allow themselves to feel a space that might not be painful or to explore those ones too? Yeah.
Yeah, because the more I so have embraced this idea of being curious, this curiosity, this childlike curiosity and wonder,
Right.
because and that being in that non-judgmental, curious space, because then, like you said, you really start to see those negative thoughts and where they come and how they're attached to things. You're like, wow. And then you start to go, oh, my brain can really start to see positive, not just negative.
Exactly.
I like to, a simple example is, there was this movie called The Italian Job, and I loved Mini Coopers in that movie. I'm zooming around, and I said that, I love the Mini Coopers. And then what did I notice on the road? Lots of Mini Coopers, but I didn't notice them before that, right? It's just our brain being selective, and so that's what we're trying to do, is open up. Instead of just focusing on the negative, we have to acknowledge it, because if we don't, it just grows.
Right.
But then we also want to help rewire our brain, so we see that there's alternatives, that there's possibilities. That just helps our brain want to do that more and more as well.
Absolutely. Look for the Mini Coopers. I love it. Best advice for the day. All right. So your freebie, other than the gift you gave us already, you were sending us a link, right? For which I will include of a practice.
So that was what we did today. That's actually the freebie. So it'll have the tapping points, a separate document. It's the tapping points, and it'll also have then in there a guided script. And so you can just follow along that script, and it's what we did today.
Okay, perfect. I will attach that. Absolutely. And if they want to get a hold of you, how can they do so?
Best way is going to be, you can look on my website, tazvazquez.com. Otherwise, you can also reach out. Dancing Dogs too. Love of dogs, love of dance. That's where that came from. But Dancing Dogs 2 at hotmail.com, or on any of the social media. So you can look up Jennifer Vazquez or at Dancing Dogs 2, and you'll find that.
Beautiful. I was dying to ask you about the dancing dog. So thank you for that one. I love it. Oh, well, I know on behalf of our listeners and myself, thank you so much for bringing this to us today. It was really, really helpful.
Thank you so much.